Would you like a little more foreplay in your life? I mean, specifically, brain foreplay. Well, then tune in to the most dynamic host, Dr. Rick Perea, performance psychologist to professional athletes, the stars, and everyday people. No failure is final, and no topic is off limits. It's time to get real and get your checkup from the neck up.
Good morning, people. Thank you for joining us here at Thinkone for You, otherwise known as Brain Foreplay or Brain for Play. My guest here is Chris Brewer, the one and only Chris Brewer, former Denver Bronco, Chicago Bear running back, the best running back I ever played against. But I did tackle you in the open field, and that's another topic for another day. But we're here at Brain Foreplay. This is our Mental Monday, and it's your checkup from the neck up. Every week we come at you, and we bring a checkup from the neck up. And what that means is, as a psychologist, I'm Dr. Rick Perea, psychologist to pro athletes, the stars, and everyday people. We want you to check up from the neck up. We want you to think about how you can get better every day from looking within, looking at decision making every day, and helping yourself understand, am I being the best version of myself? And I'm here to tell you, people, that starts from the neck up. That's why we call it the checkup from the neck up. Today we have a really interesting topic. We're going to talk about classism, racism in sports, and a term that very few people use, and that is ethnocentrism. And ethnocentrism is a term we use in psychology to explain cultural norms and practices, and we're centric to our own viewpoint. And we're centric to our own viewpoint, we have those preferences. And oftentimes people call certain behaviors racist when they're not. They're not racist, they're ethnocentric. And so the first qualifier I want to put out there today is you and I, Chris Brewer, Dr. Rick Perea, we admit, we raise our hand right now, I am ethnocentric, okay? So I'm not calling you anything that I'm not. Here's our postulation for the day. We're all ethnocentric, but the question becomes, are you willing to look at that within yourself and say, how can I get better? How can I learn different cultures? How can I learn different tendencies from different ethnicities, races, cultures, so that we can bridge the gap of people who are disconnected in our society? And there are too many people disconnected in our society today, Chris Brewer. I'm going to tell you something. I was on a radio show last night. We talked about suicide. It's too prevalent among our adolescents. It's an epidemic in our society, and it's because people are disconnected. And so today our topic about ethnocentrism, racism, and classism in sports will illuminate and highlight experiences that you've experienced as a former NFL running back, a person, a father, a husband, me as a former player, also a psychologist in the NFL, which I think is important to understand, people, because I'm going to say something right now. On any NFL team, the psychologist, the mental skills coach, that person knows more about the team than anybody under the roof of the building. More than the GM, the EVP, executive vice president, head coach, anyone. Because the players tell him or her more than they tell anybody. Chris Brewer, tell us a little bit about what you got going right now in your life. Again, a great husband, great father, great former football player. We were actually high school teammates at the George Washington here in Denver, Colorado, and one of the just the finest people that I know. And he's a regular here on Brain Foreplay. Tell us about what's going on in your life right now, brother.
Well, first of all, let me start with this, because you bring this up a lot, that you tackled me in the open field.
I did.
LOD.
Come on, brother.
Okay, let's say you did. No, and I know you did because I kind of remember it. All right, because I'm very rarely tackled. They didn't call me Big Train, for no reason. I carried a lot. But we're gonna have to replay that. You ready? Because after the show, outside, brother.
Oh shit! Oh, okay.
Outside. Let's replay that one. Because I got to get some payback. All right, but truly, you talk about me, and you talk about you're the psychologist to everyday people. I am everyday people.
Yeah.
And I'm honored the fact that we're still friends and that we have our relationship and that only God could have put this together because
I'm telling you, brother.
40 years ago, I'd have never thought he said you would have been a psychologist,
right?
and I'm still standing here, because there's just so much. You call me a great father. You've done that before, and I'm honored to be called a great father, a great husband. I am so honored. But I'm going to tell you, and parts of me just cringes whenever you say that, because it's only by the grace of God. All I really know is that I love my children. And I love my wife. That's all that I know. But I know it's by the grace of God because I've not always been that great husband.
Sure.
And so, and as we evolve to become who we are, I am thankful for the fact that my children honor me and that they love me, all 8 of them.
All 8 of them.
Or 9, depending on who you are.
You and Philip Rivers. Let's go, dog.
Yeah. Me and Philip. Am I chasing him or he's chasing me? He's chasing me because I'm done. I don't know. I think he still got a ways to go. But, and then my oldest son just had his firstborn son and named him after me, or us. He's Christopher Jace Brewer III. And that is like one of the greatest honors ever. And I know that's only by the grace of God. So, but I'm glad to be sitting here talking to you from a black man's perspective.
Sure.
As far as racism, I'm going to try it again. Ethnocentrism.
Ooh, awesome.
Got it.
How?
Yeah. And classism.
Yeah.
And I've told you plenty of times. We have spoken before. I'm born guilty. And I don't know if anyone really understands what I'm trying to say here. But as a black man, I'm born guilty. I've told you about the ratification of the 13th Amendment that set all slaves free. There's an amendment to that. If a slave committed a crime, he can be brought back into servitude. Okay, that's part of it. And I didn't say. Now I don't think you heard me. I didn't say if he committed murder. Right. I didn't say
you just said a crime.
I didn't say if he did an assault. I said if he committed a crime. So I don't know what they were. What kind of candy they had back in there, but if they had a candy bar, if you stole a candy bar, if you stole saltwater taffy, and you were convicted, you can go back into servitude, and the criminality of who we are and Birth of a Nation. There was a movie, Birth of a Nation, back in the early 1900s. Start criminalizing African Americans and all people of color. So there was there's a hint of when the same. I'm thinking about what the coach for the Redskins said, the offensive coordinator, and I played against him in college.
Rivera.
Rivera.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And he said, well, what happened at the Capitol? This is his words. Was a dust up.
Oh, you're thinking of not Coach Rivera.
No,
You're thinking of.
He was the head coach of the Jacksonville.
Del Rio.
Coach
Jack Del Rio.
Jack Del Rio.
Yeah.
Don't put Rivera. He didn't say
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ronnie's my boy.
Yeah. Played against him too.
Yep.
One at SC, one was at SC, and one was at
Cal.
the University of Arizona. Yeah. One was at Cal. So I played against him all those 4 years in college, and he called the Capitol insurrection a dust up. Right. No big deal. Yeah. but he called the riots that were happening because of George Floyd and all the things that were going on in the summer. That was like almost, not almost, but we should investigate why that was happening. And he was really high on why that was happening. Because of the ideal of if people of color are doing the same exact act, it's not created or is not viewed the same.
Right.
And I mean, just search your heart. All you have to do is think about it. Not your heart personally.
Yeah.
When I say people in general.
Sure.
And what we're really talking about is that word, ethnocentrism.
Yeah.
How we were brought up. And what I call it is rule of first law.
Yep.
All right. So whatever you were taught first, regardless of what it is, or how to bake cookies, or how to, interact with other people, that or whatever your mama told you, that's what you're going to grab onto.
Right. And that's
more so, and you're going to believe that until you're not open, until you can become open enough to believe something else.
Right. Well, and that's part of the education of life, right? We have formal education, we have informal education. We have all different contexts in terms of how we grow and stretch the brain. Here at Brain Foreplay in our podcast, we constantly seek to stretch the schema. The schema is how you organize information in the brain. And when we talk about classism and racism, our viewpoint has been too skewed in life. And that's why I think it's such an important topic to talk about. And so one of the things that brings to my attention that got me going early on in my career, Chris, was when I was a freshman in college, and there was a song out called Rapper's Delight. And it was by Sugar Hill Gang. And I was playing this song on a boombox. Remember the boomboxes?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I was playing this song in a boombox, and one of my coaches walks by and he says, RP, he says, what is that shit?
Right.
What is that shit you're playing?
Oh, man.
And I said, Coach, it's not shit. It's called rap. And he's like, well, that's I've never heard that before. And then the next day, another player walks by playing some country western. I'm crying in my beer. Some Waylon Jennings shit. And he said, RP, now that's music. And I said, whoa, okay. So country western's music, and to me, my music, Rapper's Delight. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I'd like to say hello.
Hello.
To the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. But first I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie, set up, chuck the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie, let's rock. That
and
song.
You don't stop.
And you don't stop.
And you stop.
That song,
thankfully,
to my coach was shit. Like, what is that shit?
Because you know what? Real quick. Rap was new. It's like I remember that. It was
100%.
It was brand new.
Right.
He never heard it before, but he knew this. It was ethnicity.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that word.
Ethnocentric.
He knew that it was something that was people of color.
Yeah.
It was black folks.
Yeah.
Okay. He's heard country music before. He's never heard Rapper's Delight.
Right.
And many people haven't.
Right.
And so he didn't know how to handle it because it wasn't part of his rule of first law.
Right. But my question at the time was,
yes,
why did he call mine, what the hell is that shit, versus country western, which he knew? And it was because of his ignorance. Now, the root word of ignorance, people, is ignore. And he didn't have enough information to say, okay, let me be open to this kind of music. But here's the question that I walked away with, Chris. It made me wonder, as my linebacker coach, did he coach me differently than he coached the kid that he says, now that's music? Because culturally, they were congruent. They were very similar. And, the way they talk, the way they walk, their cultural practices and norms. Did he, and that was just my question, did he treat me differently? And there were times throughout my career, even when I was a rookie with the Broncos in 1983, I got to be really honest. I was different than anybody among all of our linebackers. You know how I was different?
Okay, I could give you a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But go.
I was the only brown player.
Okay.
There were black players, there were white players, but I was the only brown player. In 1983, count the Latinos in the league. I think we're talking about Anthony Munoz. Mm-hmm. I think we're talking about Pete Rodriguez, the punter at Seattle. I think that's pretty close to it.
We don't really count punters.
Oh, damn. Damn. Really hey, that was Chris Brewer who said that.
We don't really count
punters and kick.
Hey. But Bucky, if Bucky's listening, Bucky Dilts. I love you, Bucky. Bucky's my buddy. Bucky's my boy.
Yeah, okay.
Good golfer. But anyway, I'm just joking.
Last I checked, kickers can win games for you, brother.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for me, for me as a Brown player, I felt all alone. Okay? And some people might say, oh, well, come on. It's football. You just strap it up and let's go. That's true. But culturally, I felt a disconnect. I felt that in college when I had college coaches walk up to me and said, RP, what are you? What are you? And I said, what am I? I'm an outside linebacker, coach. What do you mean, what am I? You know? And he's like, are you Hawaiian? Are you Asian? What are you?
Yeah. Filipino?
I'm like, you know, I'm Latino, I'm Italian, I'm a little bit Native American, you know.
Yeah.
But the question was, you're not white, you're not black, so what are you? And that question resonated in my brain, and I thought I was other. I was different. I was other. So for me, I always felt that disconnect. And I'll say this, because I want to turn this over to you, because I love your perspective, especially your vision now and what you do in your life. But when even I was at George Washington, I don't know if you remember this, but George Washington was largely a high population of Jewish and a high population of black. And after our games on Friday nights, on Saturdays, I would switch. We call it code switching. I would switch. You know, one weekend I'd go hang out with the white dudes, and the next weekend I'd go hang out with the brothers. We go up to Park Hill and hang out. But I got to tell you this, as a Brown player, maybe one of the only, I think I was the only one at George that was Brown. When I was with the white dudes, they would tell me things that they wouldn't say in front of the brothers.
Right.
And then when I was with the brothers, they would tell me things that they wouldn't say in front of the white dudes. And I can remember going home and telling my mom, I'm like, Mom, this world is hypocritical. Because we're like, when we're all together, we're dapping up. What's up, brother? What's up? We love each other. Everybody's hugging and everything. And then when we get to our separate sides of the city, the white dudes are like, oh, man, that dude, da, 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 da. What? You were just hugging him 10 minutes ago. Right. Yeah, but you know, they da, 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 da. No, I don't know. Then I go to the other side, Park Hill, where I'm with the brothers. Man, you know, those Peckerwoods, those crackers, da, da. What? We were just... So to me, that wasn't racism though, Chris. It was ethnocentrism. And what that means is, let me define it. Ethnocentrism means that you're centric to your cultural practices and norms. Your music, your food, your vibe, your cars, the way you talk, your vernacular. It's specific to your cultural norm. And it doesn't mean that you don't like other ethnicities and races. It just means you vibe and groove with what you were raised with. And only if, and I repeat this, people, only if we seek out diversity in our life, only if we seek out diversity in our life, we will not stretch that schema in the brain to become diverse. And I got to tell you this, I have a friend here that got recruited by CSU here in Colorado. And he purposely chose to go in the South, in the SEC, because he wanted something different. And he's a white dude. And I applaud that. I applaud that, because he's like, bro, I didn't want to go to CU and see all the same dudes I went to high school with. I wanted to go to LSU where it's the South.
It's different.
It's different. You know, there's girls that are brown, black, you know, whatever, that I could stretch myself. And I love that, Chris, because being somebody that was in the middle, I call myself the lone wolf. Being somebody that was in the middle, I wasn't black or white, I had to learn to straddle. And I had to learn skills. I learned how to code switch. I could talk like this. I say, if I want to go into the hood, and I could talk like this, because, you know, I have to go to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, I said, you know. And also my brother's on the wrestling team too, you know. So if I can talk like that. I can talk like, hi, Jim, good to see you. How are the kids? Super.
The Volvo running good?
Yeah, the Volvo's great. The minivan, outstanding. Say hi to Bartha for me. Outstanding. Yeah. I said, what up, bro? What up, dog? How we doing, bro? We good? Yeah. We good? Right. Okay, cool. We good. You know what I'm saying, G? So for me, I can switch because I had to. I had to, Chris. I had to fit in. Because if I wanted to be this in high school, bro, there wasn't any more of us, you know?
Right.
It was just me.
It was you.
It was just me and the janitor, you know. We just chilled, you know.
You said that, not me.
Hey, my dad was a janitor for a time. I have no shame about that.
No.
We went from a third grade education.
It's an honorable living.
Yeah, we went from a third grade education. My dad had to quit school in third grade to work on the farm to a PhD in one generation. I'm absolutely proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Right?
Wow. See, so your dad was limited in his options.
100%.
And now you're unlimited in your options in one generation. And your children are super, super unlimited.
Absolutely.
And they're you know, what they want to do or how they want to dream.
Yeah.
You said so much. I don't even know where to begin. You said so much. I mean, rich, good stuff. I don't even know. But let me just start with this about your coaches.
Yeah.
That is why that the league can be 80%, close to 80% black in the NFL. And NBA doesn't have this problem. But the NFL definitely has this problem as far as players are concerned. And then have 10% or token black guy on the coaching staff because that's the people they hang around and their culture. See, culture is so different than racism. Yeah. Because the culture to me is like I'm looking in the room and and a lot of people out there in the audience, they won't know what it's like to smell burning hair on a Sunday morning because your sister or your mom is pressing their hair, and it's something that you don't experience unless you experience this. That's part of my culture. Yeah. All right. But that's culture. But racism is because you went to the 7-Eleven. I can't even say it because you talk that way. Racism would be, I won't give you a job or I won't let you live in my neighborhood because of how you talk and what color your skin is. That's racism. That's actually illegal. That's why it's such a powerful word. And then some people, and it really, I don't think it's ever happened to me because I'm just not that dude, try to say that I'm racist, or try to say another black guy is racist, or try to say a brown person is racist, when it's almost literally impossible for me to be racist because there's nothing that I have that I can keep you from. This is America. America is based on what has been going on for 400 years. Right. And so it's not like that brown people or people of color had any control. Even women. So we're talking about sexism. They didn't have control. If you weren't a landowner, if you weren't white and a landowner, you couldn't vote. So you weren't representative. You didn't have representation in our society as far as government is concerned. We're slowly turning because you're proof positive that it's turning. Dr. Rick Perea. I mean, which is, it's not funny to me. I love my brother. My brother's a doctor. That we're on this air.
It is kind of funny though.
That it changed. It's changing so quick.
Yeah.
There's gonna come a time. I'm gonna say something a little bit controversial.
Hey, but that's okay.
There's gonna come a time.
You know what?
In the near future, that guns will be outlawed in America. At least the high-powered guns. Yeah. The high-powered rifles, because my father hunted. Your father probably hunted, being on a farm. I mean, there's a generation who that's how they fed their family. Right. But high-powered weapons, because of what kids are going to have to go through, duck and cover drills and all these, active shooter drills that they have to go through. When they get an age, there's going to be many of them says, I'm not putting my kid through that. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen to my son. That's not going to happen to my daughter, where they have to do that. Because there's a lot of societies. Australia's one of them. Sweden. Costa Rica. Yeah, there's a lot of societies that don't have the issues that we have when it comes to gun control. I don't know if that's part of what we're talking about, but I'm using that as an analogy of how things can change. It looks like it's changing real slow, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just changes. All of a sudden, you're the lone wolf. Yeah, lone wolf. And at George Washington. Yeah. Which, gave you a lot of opportunities too. Oh, yeah. Okay, come on. I mean, I don't want to say too much because absolutely you can date easily. Yeah. either side.
No,
But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But it gave you a lot of opportunities also. But as far as who you are as a person, as far as what your goals were, as far as how you lifted yourself, I'll say lifted yourself as far as your education is concerned, that thing is turning quick.
Sure.
Like boom. You know, like my mother, we talked about it before. My mother was a maid at time. My mom, to support the family.
Sure.
And now my youngest daughter, wants to be a photographer. My mom never had that dream.
Right.
If she had the dream, there's nothing that she could react to. There was no opportunities. The opportunities were few and far in between.
Right.
For her coming from Mount Pleasant, Texas, to become a photographer.
Yeah.
So, things are changing.
Yeah.
And the ethnocentric part of us has to be open enough to see the change.
Right. One of the things, and I appreciate those perspectives, Chris Brewer. By the way, on Brain Foreplay, we always aim to stretch your schema. That's how you organize information in your brain. That's why I have my brain here. I have two brains. That's just one of them. There's one in here, but I switch them out.
I trust that one.
This is the law-abiding one.
Yeah.
So here's I want to understand. So in 2015 into February 16, I was the psychologist for the Denver Broncos. We won the Super Bowl. I get hired by Adam Gase to go down and coach from the neck up for sure. I get hired to be the team psychologist for the Miami Dolphins, 2016 through 17, 18, up until 19. Let me tell you about something that happened in the locker room for me there. It's another example that a lot of players talk about, because as we get forward, we've got to get better, not only in pro sports, but in society at large, of what we call covert racism, covert ethnocentrism. It's buried underneath the surface. It's not open. We don't see it, but it's there. So I get hired by the Miami Dolphins. I'm there for 2 days. I'm getting settled in my office. Adam Gase had not introduced, bless you, Adam Gase, that's my brother. He had not introduced me to the staff yet, so I was in the coach's locker room, getting my locker all set up. A couple assistant coaches come in. I think they knew me just from Adam describing and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And they come up and introduce themselves. They're like, "What's up, Doc? I'm Coach so-and-so, Coach so-and-so." I said, "What's up, guys?" And they said, "Hey, man, anything we can do to welcome you here, cool." He says, "But let me tell you something. You're going to love it in this building." I'm like, "Cool. I'm excited, right?"
Okay.
And he says, "But you're going to hate it out there."
Got your Miami Dolphins? You still are.
I'm repping today.
Right, you're repping today.
Repping today. I just came from the gym, so.
Yeah.
But he says, "You're going to hate it out there." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Fort Lauderdale, Miami." He meant you walk into a drugstore and it's like a third world country. You're going people with an accent, you can't understand them. They don't speak English. Half of the messages are in Spanish and in English. And I'm like, And I just let him go on and on for about 10 minutes. And I says, "Fellas, let me tell you something. 2 things. Number one, that's why I came to South Florida, because of the diversity, because of the Cuban, the Puerto Ricans, the Latinas, all of that stuff.
Right.
And I'm Latino." They got real quiet. And they're like, "Oh." And I says, "You know what? It's good. It's good." That was not racism. Okay? That's ethnocentrism. They were centric to their viewpoint. So they're not used to hearing an accent of someone working behind the counter. For me, Chris Brewer, I hear that accent, it's beauty.
Right.
It's beauty because it's diversity. And whether they're from Honduras or Jamaica or, I'd like to live in America, Puerto Rico, whatever it is,
right.
It's beauty.
Sharks in the Jets.
My sons went to schools down there that were so diverse. I mean, remember the lone wolf? Right. I was the only brown.
Right.
Now they're going to schools where brown abounds. Brown abounds. And I'm like, whoa.
Brown's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is from different countries.
Yeah.
So those coaches were just postulating what they knew.
Right.
In their ethnocentric viewpoints to what they were raised with.
Right.
And so for me, the question comes back to, like we said at the intro, are you willing to look at yourself, people? Are you willing to challenge yourself and say, how am I ethnocentric to the viewpoint that I'm homogeneic, and homogeny means everything's the same. And you and I know you can walk into neighborhoods in Denver, Colorado, and all the houses look alike. The people look alike. They all drive minivans and Volvos, right? I mean, it's so similar. It's so homogenous. It's so homogenous that to me it's suffocating.
Don't leave out the Subarus.
Oh gosh, don't get me started with Subarus. Colorado and Subaru?
Yeah.
Bro,
anyway.
We lived in South Florida for 3 years. I don't think we saw one Subaru.
Okay.
I'm being straight up.
Yeah, no, why?
You know what I'm saying?
Why? I don't know why would they sell a Subaru in South Florida?
But, we saw Lambos and, Ferraris and all that. But
and Bugattis.
I didn't even know what a Bugatti was till I went to South Florida.
Yeah.
But my point is, people, we've got to understand that when we seek diversity in our schools, in our neighborhoods, we can only grow and learn. A sobering question. I asked a real estate agent here about 15 years ago. I said, I want a house in this price point, diverse schools and diverse neighborhoods. And she looked me in the eye. She says, doesn't exist. I can get you diverse schools, not in Colorado. I can get you diverse schools. I can get you a diverse neighborhood, but not at that price point. Or I can get you that price point, and it's not diverse. So we've got to understand that exists in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. I can get that in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
I can get it in South Florida.
Okay.
I mean, there's a Venezuelan neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale that $1 million homes. Okay. But that's homogeneic too. Yeah. It's only Venezuelans.
Right.
Here's where we got to get better. We're a salad bowl. And if you look at a salad, crouton is still a crouton. Tomato is still a tomato. A piece of lettuce is still a piece of lettuce. It's all in the same bowl, but it's a salad.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's here in Colorado because, brown lives here, white lives here, and black lives over here. In general. But in South Florida, it's a fondue.
Okay.
It's a fondue. So there's cheese in there.
I've heard you say that before.
There's beans in there.
You're gonna have to explain.
There's
fondue. There's a lot of people that don't remember the stick and the heated and how it melts and you put something in the fondue. They don't even know what you're talking about. I bet you your son doesn't know what a fondue is unless you told him.
A fondue is you put a bunch of ingredients in. I'm no cook either.
Okay.
I put a bunch of ingredients, you mix it up, but it all becomes one. It's all into each other, and it's so interdependent, we don't know. But at the end of the day, it's delicious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know what a fondue is. Yeah.
Okay.
We're the same age.
And so you and I, at the end of the day, you're a black man, I'm a brown man, but we're delicious together.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of our viewpoints are congruent, some of them compete.
I would never call another man delicious.
Well,
that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. But we're not that there's anything wrong with that. I just personally would.
But see, I'm androgynous. For those of you out there, look up the word androgyny.
Yeah.
So for me, I want the fondue. I don't want the salad.
I understand.
We have got to get better at mixing with each other, learning each other's cultures, backgrounds. Because as I said at the beginning of the show, I'm ethnocentric. There are times that I will judge people just unconditionally and conditionally without even realizing that. So if I do it, I know other people do. I study culture for a living. Every step of the way in my PhD program, I studied culture. I mean, my dissertation was how white coaches coach black players. Mm. You notice I didn't even have Brown in there. You know why I didn't have Brown in there?
There's very few.
There's not enough to study.
Yes, not. Yeah.
Think about how sad that is.
There's no case study.
Gosh, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
That is so sad. When I wanted to study brown players in pro sports, not enough.
Well, in NFL.
Well, NBA.
Baseball may be different.
Yeah, no, there's a, but I don't want my sample just in one sport.
Right, of course.
So for me, I studied white coaches and black players. Now, I'm not saying a white coach can't coach a black player, but there are some disconnects. The last example I'll give you is as a psychologist for the Miami Dolphins. I had one of my players walk in my office after practice, close the door and says, "Doc, can I share something with you?" I said, "Always, brother." So he sits down and he says, "You see me out there dapping it up with my coach?" He says, "I saw you checking us out." I said, "Yeah, man." You guys are like, "What's up, dog? How you been, man?"
And I'm assuming one's black and one's white.
Yes. Okay. Coach is white, player is black.
Okay.
And he says, "Man," He says, what you saw out there, it's all window dressing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what you mean? He says, I got to do that. I said, why? He says, because if I don't do that and try and connect with my coach, I may not get playing time. And I have to fit into his world. But you know what? He don't know a damn thing about me. He don't know a damn thing about my culture. He don't know where I'm from. He don't know the music I like. He don't know any of that. All he does is shake his head when I drive in the parking lot and he hears me bumping my music.
Right.
And what's he shaking his head about? Is he shaking his head like grooving with me? Or is he like, wow, what you listening to now? You know? So the point is, even though a lot of relationships look like they're connected on the outside, deep within us, there is a disconnect culturally if people are being honest. And when they come in my office and they're honest, because there's no external validation in my office. All there is internal validation of being honest to who you are. And when they come in and they're core honest and say, man, that dude doesn't understand me. He doesn't know a thing about me. Then we have got to look at ourselves and get better at the way we converse. Because I can tell you this, when we moved to South Florida and my sons went from playing on all white teams to all black teams, it was beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It was pure beauty. I never had so much fun as a parent as with my son's football teams in South Florida.
Amen.
Never had so much fun.
Amen.
And when we came back to Denver, it was like a culture shock. And I'm not saying black's better than white, white's better than black. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're brown and in the middle, you got to learn to navigate. That's why I can code switch. I can talk like this. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. How are the kids? Or I can talk like this.
Right.
Or I can say, what up, dog? How we doing, bro? We good? We good?
But that's what makes you who you are. The sad part
the code
of that
switcher?
and able to relate. That's what I really meant. Because the sad part of what you said from the beginning was the coaches came to you in Miami and they felt open enough to tell you about the culture out there on the outside.
Yeah.
And the reason they said that was because you had doctor in front of your name. They didn't really realize that you were a brown man. They just thought you were a white dude with a good tan.
They didn't with a good tan.
Right.
They didn't realize.
They saw you as, you was like, okay, this man, he just got to Florida. Look at this tan.
They didn't realize I was a cholo from Gardena.
From the east side. Right.
I was a fucking gang member, bro.
Right. But they felt comfortable enough to try to tell you about something that you already knew about that you were looking forward to because they thought you were, because of the DR in front of your name and your credentials, they thought, well, maybe he's just, a white dude.
Right.
That was their perspective.
A white dude with a good tan.
With a good tan. So it's like that. They didn't know that was his good melanin. Anyway, that's the thing. That's who makes you, because now you're approachable. So when anybody walked into your office, they knew they were able to be themselves and say what they needed to say. I don't want to make this about me, but see, that's what I always thought. Maybe because of the way I grew up, that was already equal. So I had issues with coaches because I thought, especially white coaches, because I thought I was equal to those coaches. As men or as we're in this together.
Yeah.
And the coach would say something to me, and I would say, "Well, why do you have to talk to me that way?" Why do you have to? You didn't have to degrade me.
Right.
I'll listen. I'll do whatever. I'll run through that wall and won't even count the bricks. But you don't have to degrade me. So you were talking about how coaches coach, and that's probably part of your study, how white coaches coach black players, because there's a big gap in saying that we have to. You got to yell and scream and whatever. You got to get through them. That's not how I grew up. I grew up at a high school. Where I got, because of busing. For better or worse, because of busing, I grew up around Jewish guys, and I grew up around my neighborhood guys. So I had a mixed culture, which I totally love, which allows me to really understand that ethnocentrism of life and understanding how we got here and where we got to go.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is beautiful about you, Chris, is off camera we were talking. He's like, man, I love country western.
I love country
western, and
love it.
And that's beautiful. I love that. I love that we are at an age where now we can help people stop and check themselves. The checkup from the neck up at Brain Foreplay here, we always want you to think. We always want you to examine your processes, because if you don't, you will not grow in this lifetime. You have to leave your comfort zone emotionally and psychologically, people, to get better. And the last example I'm going to give is with the Denver Nuggets here in town, and just how subtle ethnocentrism can be. One day, it was when Kenyon Martin played here. Remember Kmart? Kmart was my dog.
Kmart.
That was my guy.
Right.
Kmart was playing here, and I was talking to my then brother-in-law. And I said, I'm going to go check out the Nuggets. Allen Iverson, Kmart, all those dudes. And he goes, why would you want to go watch the Thuggets? And I said, what? And he goes, the Thuggets.
Yeah. One of the nicest teams in the league.
Right? and he goes, man, Kenyon Martin's got tattoos from his neck all the way down. And
Allen Iverson.
AI. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
dang, the Thuggets?
Right.
Really?
Right.
And I remember walking away from that saying, whoa, that wouldn't even been a thought process for me.
Right. Because I don't view them, all right, never viewed the Nuggets as thugs.
No.
Right.
And
last team in the league.
And here I am, I'm a doctor and I got tattoos, right?
Right.
Does that make me a thug?
Yeah, sometimes.
But fast forward, there was a player that played for the Nuggets named Birdman.
Yeah.
Well, that was his nickname. What was his name?
Chris Anderson.
Chris Anderson. Yeah, and Birdman, right? But Birdman is a Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
He had tats, I think, every inch of his body.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't.
But from what I can see, from what you can see, he had tats.
But we never referred to Chris or Birdman as a thuggin.
No.
He was always just always that cool kid
or a tough guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, he was a tough guy.
An enforcer.
He's an enforcer. He's a tough guy, but he's never a thug.
Never a thug.
Right.
So my question is...
That's cold, if you ask. If you really go deeper into it.
Oh, yeah.
That thug part.
So my question is, and people, let me just emphasize this again. We're not making accusations. We're not making assertions. We're asking questions here. Mm-hmm. So my question becomes, and I mean it's an open-ended question. Did we refer to Kenyon Martin and AI as the Thugget? For what reason versus Chris Anderson Birdman as just a cool dude who had tats and big trucks?
They were thuggish. They were thuggish because they were black. Come on, man.
Well, that's my belief. Oh. But I want everyone out there to. Okay. I don't want to railroad people. I just want them to ask themselves, think about it in their brain.
Okay.
Think about really what's the difference there. Mm-hmm. Why do we label people? And you brought up an amazing point a few weeks ago. We were talking, and you said you talk about the fights in hockey versus if there were fights like that in the NBA with black men,
they would ban it.
They would ban the sport. They would say the NBA is a violent sport. If they let two black men fight at center court and let them go, like they do in hockey. So here's the question, people. Again, question. It's not exclamation point, it's question. Yeah. What's the difference there? Why are two white men allowed to fight on the ice with people banging on the walls, on the boards, mm-hmm. encouraging it?
Right.
But in the NBA, if you have a fight, it becomes a melee. It's labeled.
Can I just interject?
Sure.
We talked about Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
For a hot second.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony was upset about what a player said about his wife. I'm just going by the story.
Yeah.
When he was at the Knicks, mm-hmm. Carmelo was waiting outside the bus of that player, to get off the bus. That was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Whoa, he was waiting outside the bus. We thought that, that World War III broke out, and all he was doing was waiting outside the bus if they were going to fight or not. Yeah. There was no blows taken. Because he said what the player said about his wife was really bad. What he said about the fight didn't start there. Should have started. Yeah. But there was no fight. Right. There was never a fight. But it was a big deal at the time. Yeah. And so, to relate that to how we view things, and hockey players get in fights all the time. And I'm just going to tell you, I love the Avalanche. I love what they represent as far as Colorado is concerned. But I'm not a pro hockey fan. Love DU hockey. Love Arizona hockey. I'm not a pro hockey fan because of that. I can't embrace it. I can't understand it. And so I have a different perspective, but what you're trying to do is open up people's minds and says, okay, why do I think that's okay? Why do I think it's okay for two guys just to fight in the middle, and it has something to do with the game, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the game. And if I saw two black guys in basketball fight the same way, because basketball used to be on tape delay in the NBA because it just wasn't, They couldn't take the violence of the perceived violence, and it was rough, but they couldn't take the perceived violence. And it's just, I really starting to understand that thought process of what you're trying to bring out. Yeah, and all of us, we've got Misty in the room. All right, she
Misty
told
Rose Goals.
Yes, she
International Life.
I got to get your book too, but before anytime I can't wait to read it. She told us to face the darkness. Face the darkness. Let's bring the darkness out. Let's face the darkness that's in all of us, because we're human beings, and we're here by grace. Let's face the darkness so that we can understand, attack, get rid of whatever we need to do. Just face the darkness, and then the darkness doesn't start. Don't face your darkness. I want to face. I'm not saying because I'm black, face my darkness, but I got to face the darkness that's in me, and then bring that out. So you know why? Because light overcomes dark. Every single time, a single match can brighten up a whole room.
There you have it, people. Mr. Chris Brewer, former Denver Bronco, Chicago Bear, all-time great teammate, great father, husband. I'm Dr. Rick Perea from Brain Foreplay. I want to end by saying this. We have a little bit of a gallery here. And it's like United Nations. We got Caucasian, we got inter, biracial, triracial.
That's gonna be the next show.
Yeah,
for those that are that's in that category.
We got my brother Jesse, Latino, over here. You a black man, me a Latino, Native American. But I want to say this. I want to end by saying this: that we have more of these shows to come. We're going to talk. We didn't really get to touch on classism and some other isms that we want to discuss. But I will say this. I love white people. I had so many white coaches that really went the extra mile for me in high school, college, in the NFL, all the way to Dan Reeves, who passed away recently. Coach Reeves told me something that inspired me really my whole life. I had so many black coaches that, gosh, did so much for me. Coach Tarver at George Washington High School basically saved my life. So many coaches, but I am sad to say this one thing. I didn't have one brown coach, Chris. I did not have one brown coach along the way, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm not complaining, but the next generation, my sons, your kids, hopefully will be exposed to more coaches that are brown, and not because they're better or worse or anything. Because it's divergent.
And they bring something different.
Yes.
Because of how they were raised and what they've been around.
Yes. Yeah. I got to applaud Dave Logan here. He's the local head coach of my son's team at Cherry Creek High School. And his staff is very diverse. And he hired a woman to be the head freshman coach.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Dave. Last year, she was her first year. And he hired a woman to be the head freshman coach. And Coach Logan is always searching for diversity.
You brought him up, so I've known Dave since he was in high school.
Yeah. You
know why? Because he went to school in Wheat Ridge.
Right.
But Wheat Ridge Farmer. That's what they were, the Wheat Ridge Farmers. But Dave would come down to the hood
Yeah.
and play basketball against my older cousins.
Yeah.
I remember him in that old Vega that he used to drive. I'll go back with Dave. But see, Dave was already exposing himself to diversity. He didn't stay in Wheat Ridge. He was exposed himself to diversity, which now that I just found out, it's exposing himself to, he's opening up to whoever, the best possible.
Right.
Wow.
And that's what he's doing as a coach at the high school level, is he's giving the kids diversity in what we call the pedagogical delivery system. That's the coaching delivery.
You and these words.
Hey, man. You know, a PhD, you know what a PhD stands for? Piled high and deeper.
There you go.
And so I got deeper, I got words, I got 4-syllable, 5-syllable
Say that
words.
word again. I love that word.
Pedagogical delivery
I
system.
had no idea what that means.
It means how you coach, how you teach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everybody has a different pedagogy.
Oh, okay.
And it's called pedagogical
That's why we need more
system.
Brown.
That's why we need more Brown.
Yeah.
Because we need divergent pedagogical delivery systems. Because if we only have one dominant pedagogical delivery system, then we don't stretch the brain. This brain stays, the neuroplasticity stays like this. But if I got brown, if I got black, if I got white, that brain is exploding.
Wow.
It's exploding with new ideas, creativity, and then we go like this when we are exposed to differences. And that's the key. But I just want to say, I love all people. I want us to come together. That's why I'm willing to make people a little uncomfortable by these topics and stretch us a little bit. I just want to give a shout out. Last night I was on Sandy Clough's show, and I can't say enough about Sandy Clough. He lost his son 3-4 years ago to suicide, and Sandy continues to be a light and an ambassador for people that are experiencing it. And you and I have a very dear friend that lost a daughter recently, and I got to tell people, man, love one another, check on people that need checking on, but also check on people that don't need checking on. We always think that it's the ones that are struggling. Oftentimes the ones that are struggling overtly, they're expressing themselves. It's the ones that keep it in, that quote unquote have life all together. Check on them too, because you never know. Chris Brewer, I love you. I trust you. I believe in you.
Love you too.
To everyone here, Misty Rose Gold, you gotta read her book. You gotta hear her stuff. She coaches from a love perspective. It's just energy. To my son over here, Drakey, Drakey, that's my dude. And to Jesse, our engineer brother, man, keep doing what you're doing, bro. You're changing. You're moving the needle. Check us out every week on Brain Foreplay. Get your checkup from the neck up. We love you, trust you, and believe in you.
Thank you for tuning in to Brain Foreplay. Don't forget to join us next week. Same place, same time to get your checkup from the neck up. Fortified by Foreplay. That's Brain Foreplay. Please remember to subscribe to this channel wherever you get your podcasts.